it's Sandra Pike from LePage Atlantic and the Pike Group, and I am so excited, even more so than last week, about our panel discussion today. It's going to be about sellers and pricing their houses when they just saw another property sell for an astronomical amount, and is their property worth what what the other property just sold for? So yeah, I'm very interested to get everybody's position on this. And so today we're going to start off with Ian. I'll get you to introduce yourself and tell folks where you work.
Hi guys, my name is Ian Angus. I've been in the business for 14 years and I work at LePage Atlantic in Halifax.
Go ahead, Mr. Roy.
Roy Thomas from Sutton Group Professional Realty, and I've been in quite a while. I'll leave it at that.
And Sarah?
Hi, I'm Sarah Schlender and I'm with Parachute Realty, and I've been in the business for 14 years as well.
Have you really?
Yeah, I have. I took a few career breaks with my kids because I had 3 little boys born very close together.
Yeah,
So
okay.
I'm off, but I've been doing this for a long time.
I didn't know that. Oh, interesting. Well, welcome aboard, everybody. And so let's just talk about the elephant in the room. So this morning, I would have sent an MLS number for you guys to look at, and it was a property out in Sackville that, so back in 2020, they would have purchased it for $562. And now in 2022, they listed it for $699. I mean, when I looked at that, I thought, might a little bit on the high side, right? But then they got an offer and they sold for $1 million. Like that is, I mean, like good for them, but like, wow, that's just crazy. And then I wanted to see what else would have sold on that street. And in 2021, now mind you, the property was about 1,200 square feet smaller, not as blingy as the one that just sold, but that had only sold for $445,000 in 2021. So now that the bar has been, set with the property that sold for 1 million, what are the other properties on the street worth, Sarah? And you and I got into a discussion about this last week, I believe.
Yes, we did. Yeah, that's a real tough one because as soon as those type of numbers are published, everybody, I mean, Canada, Halifax's biggest pastime is, the market. Everyone's watching and they see these big numbers published, and then they automatically assume that's the new value of their home. And, rightfully so, I understand why they're thinking that. But from our perspective, when we're listing agents and we see all the offers that come in, so we may see there's 10 offers. We might see, 3 are on the low side, and then maybe, 6 are within a very normal range in numbers and probably very equal. And then we might see that one that comes in super high. And it is a little bit of an outlier at that point. However, winning offer, and that's the published price. Those sellers were very fortunate. And, now everyone thinks that their house is now worth that large number. However, really that was one person and everyone else was not willing to pay that much for it. So it's a bit tricky.
Now, Ian, how are you dealing with that?
Well, I don't have people offering $300,000 over asking on any of my properties. But with regards to like when I'm talking to my buyers, I'm explaining to them at this point right now, I'm saying whatever the list price is, add 100 grand to that and then start working off of that.
Yep, and I think a lot of us are doing that, but what are you telling sellers? Is their property worth that, or where would you list at if this was in your neck of the woods?
We have a ballpark figure on what the client wants to get and what we think the house is really worth, and that's discussed up front. And then we come up with a listing price that will enable us to get enough people through to generate that number that they're looking for or more. And it's worked. I mean, I'm not going out there and seeing a house selling for down the street on the same street, a similar house for $450, and then going and listing my client's house for 300 grand. That's just creating a false negative for everybody out there. I don't need 80 people going through the house. I don't need to deal with 60 offers either.
Yeah.
You know, 15 to
But
20 offers is good, and 25 to 35 people going through is plenty to get a good price on a house based on
Absolutely.
market conditions.
But Roy, when I looked at this house this morning, the one in Sackville. Now, what happened there? We had a little bit of feedback. When I looked at that property, I didn't think that it was listed. I thought it was listed appropriately. I mean, I thought it was a little bit high at $699 when they just bought it in 2020, unless they would have done more upgrades. But at $699, it's still sold for $300,000 over asking, you know, so what am I listing the next property on that street if it was a similar house? Am I listing it at, you know, at 900? Am I listing it at 1.1? Am I listing it at 699?
Well, one thing I do, if I got a call to list something on that street and I knew this sale existed, is I'd probably pick up the phone and asking the listing agent of this property, how many offers they had, you know, was this an outlier? Try to understand why they got that price, and then be able to have that discussion with your seller, because, you know, yeah, your seller wants to think they're going to get $1 million or thereabouts, maybe even more, but that also may have been an outlier. And if everything else in the street is selling at significantly lower prices, you know, it's nice to hope you're going to get it, but you also got to realistically tell them that you may not. And then realistically, we're going to look at your price being in here, but hey, let's try and position it so we can maximize the offers, and let's see if you can get it too, because the buyers are going to be aware of this one and what it's sold for. So they know as well as the sellers.
Absolutely. So we were talking about one here last week, and it was a property that went $700,000 over asking, which I think is, I mean, that's just crazy, right? So my thought is that, so when I, you know, looked at the property a little bit more, they were listed at the price that they sold at. Then they dropped the price to what their current listing price was, and then they ended up selling for what they initially were, what they were initially listed for. Sarah, have you run into any clients where, let's say you listed at X and the client didn't get what they wanted in an offer? Have you countered back with a higher offer to any you know, offers that you received?
I've definitely countered back when we felt compelled to, when it was the right move. But I do agree that was an interesting one, Sandra. And you had mentioned to me when we had chatted about a totally different situation about that one. I said, would it be possible that there would have been competing offers? And you had thought, no, I think they just perhaps lowered the price to get the action going on the house. And then they knew that that was the ultimate price that they were going to sell at. So they would have, I guess, countered back at that, their full ask from the previous, you know, the original listing price, which is really, really interesting. I personally have not gone that route before because I've always had competing offers, you know, within the last year and a half on all of my listings, actually. So actually, there might have been one that I didn't, that I can think of in recent times. But yeah, we've had competition on all of them. But I thought that was very, very interesting.
Yeah, would that be a practice, Ian, that you would do yourself?
Sorry, ask me the question again.
Would you, you know, if you didn't get the,
Yeah,
oh,
no.
no, actually, go ahead.
I think I've done that once. I've countered higher than it was listed for because the client was expecting to get more money, but that's not a regular occurrence. Like Sarah was saying, that was probably the only property I didn't have competing offers on.
Mhm.
And it's funny how, I mean, this has happened not just in this market, but, you know, in previous markets where the house has been sitting there for a while with no offers, and all of a sudden you offer on it, and the next thing you know, you're competing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right now, most of the time I would say it's legit. Sometimes maybe not, but that's another story.
Yeah.
But you know, as a good listing agent, if you get an offer, you're going to contact everyone that showed any interest in the property, contact them, and you know, maybe someone was sitting on the fence and now someone else wants it, makes them want it now. So
Absolutely, absolutely. So Roy, would you have had a client, or maybe you've come across something that the property was listed, let's say for argument's sake, 500,000, but And let's say that the seller wanted 650, for example. Have you seen that, like with anything that you run into, like they wanted, say 500, and they wanted 600, so they were listed at 500, they didn't get the competing offers, and then they put their price up. Have you seen that?
I haven't had it personally happen to me. I have saw other cases where other agents have done it.
Mhm.
There was one last year that I actually showed to clients of mine, and they didn't buy it because it wasn't suitable for them, but we did see that the agent didn't sell it and they did raise the price up, put on a higher price. Strange enough, there was one across the street that I also showed my clients. I thought that was the better price house, better house overall. They didn't even get an offer.
Wow. But if we, but would it be in the buyer's head that, okay, you listed your house at 500,000 and now you have the price up to 632, but weren't you willing to accept 500?
Some buyers might think that initially when they're starting out looking, but most times they understand houses are going over. And it just depends on how hot the bidding gets. Typically, you want to be careful because if you do price a house at 500, in theory, the seller should be willing to take it. I have seen cases where they weren't. I had one we put on the market. We got one offer at the presentation time, and it was full price. And the seller was upset. We countered back. That buyer walked away. 2 days later, we had two offers come in from two brand new buyers, and they got the price they wanted. I just explained to the client, you know, you're not going to get the high price if you don't have multiple offers.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. So now, you know, if we look at the stats from, you know, this time last year to now, I think last year at this time, there were about 900 homes or so sold, and we're at half of that now. So will we have the same market in 2022 that we had in 2021, Sarah, do you think?
No, we can't. We just can't. It's impossible because there's just no supply. It's a supply, you know, so we're at half, you said we're at half the sales this time, this year that we would have been this time last year. Yeah.
Correct.
I mean, I definitely have done less deals in the first, 2 months of this year than I did in the first 2 months of last year. So if the supply isn't there, I've never had more buyers ever at once in my career. I have a ton of buyers right now. It's you're keeping a track of what everybody wants and what everybody needs to see. And I've had to hire an assistant this year just to keep up with that side of things. And I'm very thankful for her help. But I mean, we can't do the type of business if the supply isn't there, the listings aren't there, the houses just aren't there. So, we're competing just as hard with our buyers as everyone else is.
Yeah. Do you think we'll get more inventory come to the market, Ian? Like, what are you seeing?
Oh, I mean, I agree with Sarah. I think we'll definitely get more inventory, but we're not going to see the inventory numbers that we had last year because, like you said, we're starting off. I think we had 9,000 listings to start going January 1st last year, and now we have coming in like under 200. Yeah, if you're just looking for semis and detached homes, that's what. If you're looking at land and mini homes and condos and stuff like that, yeah, there's a few more options. But if you're strictly looking for a detached or a semi-detached home, which most people are, I think, I just can't see how we'd come even close to duplicating last year.
No, I too feel that it will be difficult, but I
I'd
think
say
from
60 to 70%.
And in 2020, right, from 2020 to 2021, the average house price went up by $100,000. Like, so will we do that from 2022 to 2023? Do you think, Roy?
Well, if we've got a continued shortage of listings, then and there is more buyer competition, it's going to keep increasing the prices. There's no question. Real estate is 100% supply and demand. And right now we've got a strong demand and a very low supply of inventory. And while we're going to see more come on in the spring, we're going to need to see a significant increase if we want to see a market like last year. So yeah, I think we're going to see the prices continue to rise.
Keep
No,
in mind,
sir.
Sandra, we're basing those numbers off of sale to list, right?
Yep.
And there's too many agents, in my opinion, listing the properties far too low
Oh, well, you're
and
preaching to the
generating
choir.
way too much traffic when they don't need to. And then, oh, my sale to list average is 30%. Well, if I started listing all my properties at 199 grand, I could do 100% sale to list.
Absolutely. Sarah, I know you're around a lot of new construction. Like, do you know of anything new that's coming up, or, you know, what are we going to help you with the supply
She's
chain?
not gonna tell us the
No, but there might
secret.
be new, right?
So
The
tricky.
secret.
I know, my husband will kill me if, no, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, I think every builder has some stuff in the works right now. They, you know, but the trouble is that they're not interested in doing pre-solds. It's a risk to the builder. I mean, it's such a volatile market right now as supplies. It's very dynamic. It's shifting and moving. And, you know, my husband will say, oh, I had a quote on garage doors. And then by Monday, the garage doors have gone up 30%. Like, how do you run a business that way and have a pre-sold contract price, and then the house isn't ready for 12 months? That's just one part of the new home, right? Garage doors. There's so many other components as well. So it's tough because, you know, I think every builder does have a few projects on the go, but they're just not willing to put them to market at this point. They're waiting until houses are closer to completion to list them, because then they have a better sense of their costs and margins and all those things.
Yeah, we just had a trust increase for $10,000. And yeah, you're right. It just seems like it's never ending, and very difficult to do some pre-sales when it's fluctuating so much. But Ian, do you see the prices stabling anytime soon?
For new construction or just
No,
overall?
like just say for Halifax real estate, like do you see, are we going to continue to rise the way we did in 2021? Is it just going to be
Yeah,
like this?
due to the lack of inventory, and this is what I'm explaining to all my clients or anybody that wants to listen to me. You know, you have a whole bunch of different reasons why the market is going to stay the way it is, and this is just my opinion. You have what Sarah just mentioned about new construction, so there's delays in that. That usually alleviates pressure on the market. It's not doing that currently. COVID restrictions and COVID. So first of all, we had COVID, and people realized they didn't need to work from their offices downtown anymore in Toronto or Vancouver, and they moved back home, when in the past it was the opposite. People were leaving here to find the jobs. And then when COVID restrictions slow down, I think even more people are going to come out here, because we're still, even though our prices have gone up drastically in the last 2 years, we were flat from 2012 to 2018.
Yes.
Right? There were some minor bumps there, but so Halifax has been undervalued. We have an aging population outside of HRM that needs to be closer to amenities such as doctors and hospitals. So we have people in the province moving into HRM, and then, you know, people from Europe and Asia and the States, their money gets a 30% bump or whatever the conversion rate is now. So it's still a good deal to buy homes here, that even if we're averaging $500,000, Toronto's averaging 1.2 million.
I know.
So it's just a perfect storm of a number of things. So I don't see this market, to answer your original question, slowing down until mid to late 2023.
Wow. And if it does, then
Who knows? My crystal ball broke a long time ago. So.
and Roy, what are you saying to your local first-time buyers? I mean, it's like, how do you help them? Apart from, you know, you gotta like look for homes that are 150, you know, below your budget. But the budgets were never, you know, when I remember working with first-time buyers, they never had budgets like this. You know, how are they going to get into the market? What are they going to do?
Yeah, you got to definitely set realistic expectations for them to say, look, if this is what your budget is, you're approved to spend 400, you want to be looking at homes, max in the low threes or high twos, and be able to spend the 400. So you got to set realistic expectations, because if they're going to go out there and offering 10 grand over full price, they're probably not getting it. One thing about the supply I wanted to mention, we've also got a housing or a shortage of apartments,
Mhm.
which is also causing a backlog, because I work with a lot of seniors, and a lot of them would like to sell their house, would like to downsize, but they're not putting that house in the market till they've got an apartment to go to. And there's a waiting list on those. So once more apartments come online, that will help put new houses on the market.
Yeah,
See
no,
these projects being built, but there's quite a few of them are quite a ways away from completion.
yeah, yes, you're right, which is unfortunate. Hopefully, they will turn more buildings downtown into apartments. I think that would be phenomenal and a great way to, get some of the 1% vacancy off the map, downtown Halifax, but only time will tell for that. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm sure we'll see you all again, and great topic today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sandra.